You're listening to If Only I Were Wiser podcast, where Raina Wilson brings together wisdom and raw life stories to provide encouragement and truth. So many times it's easy to become discouraged in your own pursuit of health because your story or circumstances look drastically different from your favorite influencer or even the expectations you had for yourself. If that is you, welcome! This space is for you to learn, breathe, and maybe just listen and see what wellness could look like for you. Hey friends, welcome back to the If Only I Were Wiser podcast. I'm super excited to share round 2 of a special friend of mine, Alisha Banks. Alisha is the founder of From Dust and the creator of the Holy Healing Method, a biblical-based approach to root cause healing. She's a health coach, a mentor, and she helps clients overcome chronic health issues, help heal anxiety, and create wealth aligned with their spirit-anointed purpose. Alisha has also followed a calling into biblical business and being a spiritual mentor and creating passion and purpose around what you want to create on socials and for your community. That's kind of what we dive into this episode, all things biblical business, financial stewardship. How do you find your purpose as a mom when you feel like something else is out there for you to create, but you don't know what yet, and all the details in between. So let's go ahead and dive in. Welcome back, Alisha, to the If Only I Were Wiser podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm super excited.
Yeah, it's kind of wild, guys, because first of all, I just love getting to chat with my friends, real life friends on the podcast, because I feel like it's not even fair that we get to record these. But Alisha was actually one of my first faithful interviews, and then we'll unpack our stories, but just for the past 3-4 years, it's wild to see. I even re-listened to your first recording and hearing how we were speaking about things and just what the Lord was doing in that season versus where we are now is really wild.
Yeah, I was just thinking how I need to go back and listen to it because I don't know, everything shifts right in time, and we're not the same as where we were back then in life, in health and business and anything, but God is still the same. And so that's where it's really interesting to see a breakdown of how he has moved our hearts and worked in us and through us. And yeah, I mean, thanks for having me. It's like you said, I feel the same way. It's wow, I get to call this work, or
yeah.
It's
right? It's not fair.
We're having way too much fun. So yeah, I'm so glad to be here.
For real. So I will link Alisha's original episode. We kind of unpacked, I think, spiritual wisdom, emotional healing, dealing with emotional baggage as a Christian and being aligned with the Lord. We also talked about money, which we need to talk about money on this episode too, because everybody loved that piece of the combo. But I would love just to hear where you are now. How does life look now? And then we can kind of dive into how that's transformed from your platform to your business to Instagram and kind of go from there.
Yeah, no, cool. Thanks. And I think it's so interesting that people love hearing me or us, or just the conversation of money, because it's been an area that I've been no, God, I don't want to talk about that. That's such a weird word. No, who am I to talk about money? You had such issues with money in the past, but it's part of my story and testimony. And every day I'm just wait, I'm a health practitioner. I was talking to one of my mastermind clients about her stepping into mentoring other practitioners with bioenergetic testing and all this. And she's at the end of the day, it is still health practitioner work. I'm I know you're right. And so when you ask where I've been and kind of all that, I basically the last 2 years have been here and there. I've done health coaching with some private clients, but majority has been mentoring other practitioners in their business and helping them build out signature programs, and just laying foundations that are sturdy, because there's so much hype in the online space as far as growing and scaling and making money.
Yeah.
And hands down, it is a lot of work to get to those places. And so I know for me, I was hitting this point in my business where I was chasing that growth, and I got it. I got it with one of my platforms for followers. I got it financially, but there wasn't that stability there so it could be sustainable. And I was burning myself out, both with my attempt of healing and my attempt of business growth. And so it's just been my mission to really personally stay rested and also help other women operate in a way that honors God, that, helps them step into their calling, what they're passionate about and their business, their work. But yeah, it doesn't just like leave them so burnt out either financially, emotionally, spiritually in their marriage. Like there's so many dimensions of who we are and how we can be nourished as women. So when you isolate one thing, like I want to hit a 10K month, or, I'm going to jump into this 90-day parasite cleanse, like whatever you're isolating, you have to be really mindful to like filter that through the lens of the Holy Spirit and just be like, am I doing this because of what I saw on social media, or something that I really feel like God is leading me to, and that he will lead me through it, because otherwise you're gonna get all these flags and you're gonna be like, oh, okay, yeah, that's right. I kind of knew I should have rested more. So yeah, that's kind of just what I've been up to. Obviously helping women launch new offers, which has been really, really fun. And just in mom world, like fully immerse as a mama. So yeah.
Yeah. And so present. Like, we've talked about this all the time, but like, I remember when you first, like, I think you voice messaged me and was like, hey, I feel like God is calling me to like coach coaches, right? Like, coach health coaches. And you're like, I don't know if I can do this. I think the Lord is talking to the wrong woman.
For real, we doubt so much every time. Every time. It's just like you go back to the Lord and you're like, I'm so sorry I doubted you. Like, you were right. And honestly, I still have moments like that. I still have moments where
Oh,
I'm just
yeah.
like, because you're building something. When you are walking in the online spaces specifically, all the work that goes into and like the financial resources that go into building something. So for me, it's like, if I'm wrong in this, I'm gonna be really wrong. And I was like, it was that moment where I'm
Right.
like, I don't want to be wrong, but like you just have to walk with faith. You have to keep going. And so, yeah, like building out your funnels and building out all those things, right? Like that takes time, it takes money, it takes energy. And so, yeah, I remember that moment too. And you're like, nah, dude, like go do it. Like you're good at
Yeah,
this.
do
Like we
it.
need you. And I'm like, it's those moments of like encouragement, from a sister like you that just like keep me going. I'm like, okay, yeah, all right, I'm gonna do it.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. And I have like reaped the benefits of your faithfulness of like I've openly shared with people of like working within your coaching containers has been literally the biggest blessing for my business. Was it a delayed obedience? Absolutely. But we're here now. It's fine. But I say that because like it's just been so cool to see like you're in transition from like all things crunchy. Like I even if you like go back through our messages, it was like, hey, should I do this protocol or like this supplement routine, to like the transition of like, nah, dude, like are you
Yeah.
rested? Um if you're gonna spend money, are you gonna spend money wisely? If you want to do the thing in business, like let me lovingly tell you that the digital ebooks is like not gonna solve all your problems, because we can unpack that. Um
For real.
and now it's just like it's sustainable, it's healthy. Which, whether like you said, whether it's like in business or in wellness, which I think this conversation will kind of unpack both of those components. One, if you're not doing it with the Lord, like you're not going to come out fulfilled. And two, I think if we set our eyes on doing this all through socials, that lens distorts this like so deeply that there's not a way that we're going to find a way out. There's no balance, because social media will sell you the lie, and then you sell the lie to yourself and your community.
Oh my gosh. That's, yeah. You sell the lie to yourself. That's so, like such a good line. And then to your community. And that's so hard because the thing is, and I've had so many women tell me who, people will try to pitch something here and there, whether it be like a product or like even if it's a high ticket product of like, hey, like you should totally sell this on your page. Like your community loves you. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, yeah, that's the point. They trust me. And
Right.
so I'm not going to sit here and just, that's why I'm very cautious about what I bring to my platform is like, yeah, no, I love my community back. And so even though we may have been deceived in certain areas, I think it's always for us, it's been more of like a mental suck of like wrestling of like, oh my gosh, maybe I should jump into this
Mm-hmm.
thing. And everyone's saying they're making all this money. Like everyone's going to feel a degree of temptation when you see that flashing through your face constantly on social media. But it's like you said, you have to pull yourself out, especially as a business owner, and be like, no, I'm going to step into this intimate place of creation with the Lord. Is that not who he is? Like the author of creation, like, and really believe that he can divinely inspire you and give you the creative ideas to be profitable, to heal, to build a community, to be strengthened, and to like satisfy all these areas of who you are as a woman, because like building profit it's just one part of your life. You know what I mean? And whatever your motivating factor is, I work with a lot of women who it's either baseline profit for their home, they want to quit their job, they want to be home with their kids, or maybe they're paying off debt, or they don't want their husband to work so much overtime. All of these reasons are great reasons to step into, you know, a way to make money online. But it's when we do it, like you said, not with the Holy Spirit, and we're doing it in a way where we're in social media and building that as like our end all be all. Like I lived there for so long, like it was at least a year that I was just like in this vortex of social media, and it was so stressful, and I was not a present mother. And that's what really like saddened me the most, is that I was like, no, wait, I gotta do my post for the day, or I
Oh
gotta like
yeah.
do this. And it's just like, it gives me the ick, because it's like, nah, you can have systems and things structure in place so that you can have peace and you can be present. And like, that is winning to me. Otherwise I don't want it. I don't, you know what I mean? When you're a mama, it is just a different ball game. I truly believe that. So, I mean, you know, like your present mind is everything when you have a kiddo. So,
Yeah, but I think the lie, at least for me, and you can speak more on this, it's like what women come into this space or socials is they see these influencers or creators like launching the digital guides, the $20 piece that I can just sell on repeat. And I feel like I fell into that somewhat because like the Lord was like, hey, like create this thing. And like the birth of like that introduction process for what the Lord has transformed my platform now was it was this sowing the seeds of return to rest. But then I like believed a lie that was like, oh, well, success on Instagram means an income as a stay-at-home mom. So first of all, like my worth was tied into like, okay, I can't go back to like a brick and mortar. I don't want to. It's like asking too much of my time, and it's not like what I feel called to in the season. So selling on social media but must be the solution. And I think how some women view that is, one, selling the digital resource, which people don't understand. Like you have to sell thousands of your $20 ebook to meet the profit margins that these large creators are having on a monthly basis, or you have to sell your soul to affiliate marketing. And girls, like,
yeah.
I love my crunchy products. I love my affiliates, and I'm very discerning when it comes to selling that. Like you said, my community trusts me, and I want to steward them well. But I think that's the lie that women believe coming into the space is they see like, oh, well, I can just talk about these clothes, or I can just sell this thing. And then that's what success and income looks like on social media. And nobody's talking about everything that goes on behind the scenes.
No, there's so much that goes on behind the scenes, as you know, right? And now, especially like building out an even stronger back end. And this is what I've spent the last 2 years basically studying and investing in my own mentorship, paying thousands and thousands of dollars out of my business to then pour back in so I could understand the systems to make this happen. And when the veil is pulled back and you're like, oh, this is what it looks like. You're like, okay, then you step into your Instagram, then you step into your front end, then you know how to deliver an offer. But the thing is, I've bought into lower ticket things, and I've seen behind the scenes of other, you know, large name content creators, and it's all about your business model. And if you're choosing a low ticket business model, you have to commit really hard to that. You need to know that that's what you're running with, and you just run with it. But a lot of what I see too is you can have a low ticket business model, like selling something for under $100, but if you're attaching a community to that anyway, then it's like you got to look at your energy exchange. You got to look at the time that you're putting into it, because if even creating a reel, even if you get really good at creating it and it takes you 30 minutes to create a piece of content, you're still needing to do that like every single day in order to actually push out new sales. And so the business model that I have taken on, and the one that I feel like has served my family best and that serves my clients best, is to start with a higher ticket option where you are attaching either the course and community or private coaching, and the thing when it comes to coaching, a lot of people are like, I don't know if I'm a coach. Can you knit? You're a coach. Can you make homemade food? Can you make homemade food for your family? You could be a coach in that. Are you a homeschool mama? You could be a coach.
Yeah,
Like,
you're coaching your kids every day.
yeah, there's so many things you could be a coach about. So it's like you got to look at, like, even if you're not a certified practitioner, it's like, okay, what are you really good at and what do you love? And like you have no idea how many women would want to jump into a community that would focus on that one thing. Like there was a time when I was looking into the homeschool and trying to understand the differences of it. And it's like having a coach by me who could have been like, hey, these are the different options, or hey, we have a community group call on this for moms and women who are looking to better communicate with their spouse about what they desire with their children's education. I'd be like, oh, sign me up. So it's like, I think that we just think too narrow about the gifts that God has given us. But when you really seek the Holy Spirit and look in his word and ask him for the wisdom to steward our gifts well and to create profit, he will reveal to you what that looks like. And that is like, you can't bypass that step. And if you try to, you're going to end up being back to square one anyway. So it's like, let's not waste time. We got to meet with the Lord. And find, sisters, find people who can pray with you and intercede with you and, give you the wisdom and knowledge needed to like achieve actual success, not artificial success that social media likes to put on the show about. Right. And so, yeah, it's a journey. I had no idea.
Yeah.
I had no idea when I became an IHP and a coach, and I had a conversation with my husband. I've said this before, but he was just like, what did you think when you would start a business? I was like, I didn't know I was starting a business. What do you mean? Like, I didn't ask for this.
Yes, Joseph and I have had the same conversation, and especially when it came to like taking this next step of obedience of like creating the big thing.
Yeah.
He was like, Raina, what? Yeah, like are we doing this? Because if we're doing this, you need to do this, but you need to do this well. Because I did the post every day for a year, my first year, and it was growing and it was stretching, and it was exactly what the Lord, I felt like, asked of me in that season, because I was brand new, super green. I was like just throwing up what I read in my textbook that day, I was like, sure, this will help somebody because I've never heard this before, but I don't want to be a content cow. And I think the first time you were like, Raina, you can build an entire business off of Instagram, I think my brain like imploded. Because I was like, nah, girl, there's no way. But like seeing your systems and seeing the way that like you nurture your community and build this out, it's the energy exchange. It's what you talked about. I would 1,000% spend 4 hours writing emails or creating course content than sitting there dancing in our office for reels that people are going to see for not even 2.5 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah. Or in my bathroom. I've definitely done dancing stuff in my bathroom when I was on my TikTok journey. And the thing is, like, I'm revisiting that season with the Lord, just in general. And it's like when you have the system to support it, you can do whatever. And I actually encourage like women who like are feeling discomfort, like they're, really new and like, I don't know, what do I post on social media? I'm like, this is where tough love comes in. You just got to do it. You got to, there's a point you just got to put yourself out there. I think you and I both have hit this point where we don't have the feed scaries. We're not like,
nah.
Like there's sometimes I'm like, this is a little bold, like whatever, I'm going to
Yeah.
post it. You know what I mean? But we don't, you move past that block. But if you don't know what you're selling, if you don't know what you're offering, you can't just enter into that space and have these high expectations. You have to know your back end has to be secure. And like I said, I never would have imagined, as someone who went back to school to study, root cause medicine and helping women with like fertility hormones and chronic symptoms, that I would be over here like so immersed in business strategy. But it's just where God has positioned me, and there's so much to learn in there. It can almost be very like parallel to learning about your health, because everyone's going to have a different way of saying it's the best way to be in business and to be online and to make money. And so again, it leads you back to the same place of meeting with the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
And I mean, like working together too is just like, I'm always going to be like, well, what are you thinking? What are you hearing? I will give you the wisdom and I will give you the strategy, but I'm not going to, set your prices. I'm not going to pick your platform. Like, you have to make these decisions. And I mean, I guess that's one of the other biggest things I feel like the Lord has taught me is just like, you have to be a decision maker. You have to be the one who's going to do it. Until I like convince my husband to be the CEO of the company.
Yeah.
Like, it's me and the Lord. And I think every great business owner and Proverbs 31 entrepreneur comes to that point where she is just like, I need more of God. And then at that point, it becomes such an intimate walk. And it's so beautiful because like, that if you fall, you trip, he's there. Like, that if you invest incorrectly and you did something out of the flesh, he's going to be like, I got you. It's okay.
Yeah.
And I've walked this walk with finances and taxes and money and savings where I've been like crying at the end of the year because I didn't plan well. And so now it's like hitting my 4th year, I think, in business. And I'm like, things are set. I was a little bit of a squirrel this year. Like I was a little bit of like a packer of like, we're going to save extra and extra and extra, but we talked about this, analyzing your business at the end of the year. And you'd mentioned affiliate marketing and like how profitable was it for you, not just financially, but like mentally,
Time.
emotionally, like the
Yeah.
time you put in away from your kid, away from your family, away from stewarding your home to produce these things. And if you're not looking at that, like, I feel like that was a profitable exchange, then I believe God has something better for you,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah. There's so much freedom in that, and just understanding like my time. Like everybody thinks that like, oh, if I just had more time, like it would solve like X, Y, and Z problem. When like the problem isn't our time, it's like how we're stewarding it, and like what is your alignment, what is your heart behind like using your time. And there were selfish seasons where I felt like I was using my time because I was like, oh, I'm selling this like safe thing. I'm selling this makeup. I'm selling this like popular whatever. And this will feed my ego and identity of like, I'm doing the right thing on social media because this is what everybody is doing. When in reality, I was losing time with my family. Like I said, I've hit the point where like I don't care anymore on social media because it's not my means to bring about what the Lord is doing, right? Like Instagram, like you've said, it's a free marketing platform. Great. That also means I don't have to be tied to the metrics that are really crappy some days
Mhm.
because I do have community that's bought in, and I would 1,000% rather nurture them than like put all my time into selling something that's not even mine.
Yeah. And your community wants to be nurtured, and that's like a mistake that I made early on, I guess, transitioning to more business coaching. And I've learned from it, and I've re-engaged that community. But I'm a very excitable person. Like when I feel like an idea comes, I'm like, oh, like I'm gonna hit the ground running. And sometimes I just like run a little bit too fast, and like, okay, like don't close like projects. I've been talking about this lately on Instagram, like really working as that a goal in 2025 is to close some projects out. But your community wants to be nurtured. They want that. They crave that. They want to be connected. Why do people even go on social media? Like why? They're literally looking for connection. They're looking for, sometimes they're looking to be sold to, whether they know it
Yeah.
or not. They want
Right.
to buy into something. And so the fact that you're meeting people all around the world on social media is so wild. But the fact that they can come into your community and you can create, like, for what me started in a one-on-one setting with women and then move to groups is like, is just beautiful to watch it unfold. Because when you are obedient in doing that, like, you see how God just works in that and how he blesses you and how he blesses the women that are in your circle. And it's just, it literally changes lives. And so if talking about, not knowing your purpose or finding your purpose, it's really when you can step into that obedience, like you were saying, like maybe delayed obedience, but it's still obedience.
Yeah.
And we all have been there. And so it's like when you do that and when you recognize that you're not chasing followers, you're not chasing metrics, you actually, your heart wants community. God is community. And so for us to be able to pour that into the sphere of influence that he has given us, there's nothing more powerful than that, and do it in a way that balances motherhood and that witnesses, the glory of God and the goodness of Jesus to people. Like, that's what we're made to do. And so for me, it's been a really intimate journey for sure. A lot of lessons learned, but it's been an intimate walk with the Lord. Very different than like in my, early stages of coming to Jesus and like my 20s. I feel like I'm on this like other side. So it's so good though. It's so
Oh,
good.
for sure. What would you then say to the woman that maybe finding her purpose and like alignment is the first step? But like I've had so many conversations with friends that are feeling that itch of like, oh, I feel like the Lord is like calling me to do something, and social media could be my first step to do that.
Mhm.
But they like are stuck in that in between of like, or they one like know they're called to sell and want to offer community and like they have an offering, or they're like, I know the Lord wants me on social media to talk about X, Y, and Z. I don't want
Yeah, yeah.
to. Like, how do you meet them there?
So, well, the first part of that I would say is, I talk a lot about, I've talked a lot about this year about building legacy and like what that means to me. And like biblically, like first and foremost, you have to look at your roles. You have to look at the roles that God has given you in your home. I am definitely a believer that women can, work inside, outside the home. I
Uh-huh.
believe that our society and culture and financially, the way that a lot of women in this day and age, a lot of mothers in this day and age have been set up is kind of unfortunate, especially if, you have built a lifestyle off of two incomes and then you have children and then you're desiring to be home. That was kind of my situation where it's really hard because then you kind of need the income, right? I left my corporate job. I was making like 60,000 a year and I was like, I want to be home and raise my kids. That's a decision we
Right.
made. And so first and foremost, you have to look at the roles that God has given you, right? Like if he's given you, a husband and given you kids, where it's like these are also things I need to steward and steward well and enjoy, and actually have joy in my motherhood, enjoy in my marriage, enjoy being a homemaker, which I'm still learning that part of it. That's when I come to you. Enjoy doing all the things around the home, right? I want that. God, He promises us that. So you would first look at that and then be like, in what time am I able to give and pour into this other thing that I feel like God is calling me to in my business? That was one of the first things I did, was look at my schedule and be like, hey, so,
Yeah.
can I get grandparent care a couple days a week? Because I want to be focused. I don't want to like be screen time all the time with my kids. So now that gives me a day or two a week that I can work. So now that I know my hours I'm working, what am I doing? And that's where it's like very easy and tempting to go, I need to make a post on social media. And before you knew it, you're spending 4 hours creating one post. It's like,
Oh, yeah.
wait, let's go back. Women need to go backwards and be like, hey, what am I selling? I know it sounds weird to be like, I don't want to be too salesy. So many women I talk with are like, I don't know. I don't want to I don't want to be pushy. Okay, you have to know what you're selling. If you don't know what you're selling, then you have no business trying to show up on social media and create content. And so once you know what you're selling, and how you know what you're selling is looking at the capacity in the season. Can you do one-on-one? I remember you're like, I just don't feel like the Lord's calling me to that. Fine.
Mm-hmm.
Can we do a group setting? Can we do a community-based container? Okay, yes or no? Okay, then can we do a course? Can we do a digital? There's not a right or a wrong answer. It's what is best for you and what is best for your family, right? And so from there, now we know what you're selling. Now we can start doing the creation process of
Mm-hmm.
bringing you to the front end. And as you know, I'm a big fan of like bringing your community alongside of you. Even if you have 25 followers, it doesn't matter if you have
Mm-hmm.
25 or 25,000, that those are souls that are behind what you're doing. And if you start sharing the process, people are going to be engaged and interested. So by the time you actually produce that offer into the marketplace, they're ready to buy in because they've been part of that process with you. And so that's like a little baseline of like the strategy that I typically use. But, as far as finding your purpose, I guess for me, not to say I've never like struggled with what my purpose is, but it's more like I am created by God, for God, to worship Him, to bring Him glory, to know Him. I believe part of us being here on earth, we have the opportunity to just get to know Him and see Him in a different way than we will on the other side. And I want to experience that. And I see so much of that as a mom and my kids. And so if you are listening and you're a mama, like your purpose definitely is motherhood. Like I know that we kind of go up and down of like, it's not my highest purpose. Well, okay, yeah. But like, especially if a kiddo who is like, under, I don't know, I don't have older kids, but like I would say at least 16, 18 under, whatever, like little kids like that, you're meant to be with them. Like it's so finding a way to produce, something outside of that without it being emotionally draining or creating unhealthy attachments, because money then becomes an equation. So then you're like, my kid's having a tantrum.
Yep.
Let me go work. It's so much easier to just go work and do this,
Sure.
right? So finding your purpose, I mean, it's kind of like a big thing, but look at what's in front of you and then look at the testimony that God has given you. I know like for me, a big part has been healing. So it's like, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to share the testimony of what God has given me. And the way that He has made that into like a business for me is just like, wait, what? All
Yeah.
I did was want to just share the goodness of what God has done in my life. And now I get to
Yeah.
do it in a way that brings together women, brings together community, that witnesses His goodness. And we get to have like fun midday conversations where
Yeah.
normally I'd be at a corporate job on a Friday, right? Like, so to me, that's just like, that's the goodness of God.
And even for listeners that are hearing this and are like, I don't want a business. I'm very passionate about talking about, fertility, or I really want to just share the gospel online, but I don't really know how to do that.
Yeah.
I think you said it perfectly, and it's in the Lord's timing and in His season, because I very distinctly, as you're talking, think back to like our very first like DM conversations when I was like, dude, there is no way that I will ever launch a course. I was like, there, and that was like at the beginning of the podcast. I remember I had like ultimate peace about starting the podcast, getting that underground, and we're, 3 years into the podcast now. And now look, the Lord's like, Raina,
Do it.
do it. I probably told you to do this a little bit ago, but we're doing it now.
He's like, you're ready.
Yeah.
He's like, you're ready. Yeah. And the fact that you're ready means your community's ready. They're ready to go deeper with you as well. And yeah, I mean, so a woman who wants to go on and just share their faith, I mean, it does kind of, I guess, could depend on your family's financial situation. Like, you just want to make sure that when you're producing something, it's not pulling you away from your other
Yep.
roles in your home. And so to grow like a faith-based social media account that is just witnessing, I think that's beautiful. Like, I've seen a lot of different accounts, but it's just important not to compare, because you don't know what other women, like, what their needs are. And so you got to make sure, though, the volume you're producing at, we talked about this on our call, right? The volume we're producing at, it matches like where else you are needed in the home.
Yeah.
I'm just like a really big advocate of women making sure that like things are steady in the home before trying to take on too much. But even if you're just producing content to just produce it, you're still selling something. You're still trying to get people into your world. And you could grow a faith-based, or any kind of account on social media, and then you can go into like selling something
Yeah.
later on. You can. I'm not saying that like you need something to sell, but I'm thinking about the woman who, like, you're trying to make a profit, like. And again, I talk about this in my course, but like, profit building is so much more than just monetary. Like, it's your time, it's your energy. Like, there's so much more, biblically speaking, it's a gain. What is that gain you're gonna get? And you want to look at if that only gain that you are trying to get by building your social media is more followers, it's kind of a vanity metric. But if your gain is, I want to build a community, and you can start there in your mindset, then that's much better. I want to gain a community. What are you going to do with that community? So you're not hitting these next levels, where then you're like feeling like you're hitting these highs and these lows. You're just kind of at this like even coasting. You're walking on the water. You're
Right.
like, okay, this is great. Like, yeah, and hitting higher numbers and things like that, whether it be high cash months or hitting a follower count goal, like those are fine. You can have those goals. But again, I walked through that experience when I was doing TikTok and I hit 10K, and it was just like, now what?
Now
Like,
what? Yeah.
what would I do if I had 10,000 women who were like, Alisha, I want to work with you today? At that point, I didn't have
Anything. Yeah.
anything. You know what I mean? And so you want to be mindful of like what you're actually asking for, what you're actually climbing towards. You don't like, you have to have everything figured out, but you should know like a general bare bones plan of like what you're about to walk into, because otherwise I just think it can be a place mentally and emotionally that is not healthy for women to just jump right in. But yeah, and I'm pumped about your course. I'm excited about it, and course and community that's been growing and evolving. And I can't believe it's been 3 years for podcasting for you. Like,
Isn't that insane?
that's awesome.
Yeah. I haven't shared it on
Congrats.
socials because I want to do like give it its space, but I've like hit over 10K downloads, and I like remember sitting when Joseph and I like saw my metrics like on my platform, and we just looked at each other and we're like,
Yeah.
okay, we've done it. Like, what a like cool, sweet milestone. But I'm thinking, as you're talking, what about the woman that's hearing this and is like, I do want to sell. Lord, like, I'm bought in, I'm ready, but I have X amount of followers and it's under 5K or it's under 2K. Like, I have under 2,000 followers, but I have such rich community. What would you say to the women that are like, well, how can I be successful when my metrics don't look like these really big content creators?
Yeah. I would say get your wait list up. Get the wait list up, start generating the interest, because you'd be so surprised like how many people are going to be interested in what you're going to offer. I really do think it's such a lie of the enemy to like say that you have to hit a certain follower count in order to be successful. When I made one of my first 10K launches, it was off of an Instagram account that had less than 25 followers on there. And I had like, I think the same amount of like people on my email list. I had like 25 followers on the account that I had opened at the time. I was testing something out. And then I had like 25 email subscribers. And I had a goal. I wrote it down. I wanted to hit the 10K for a launch. I had a certain amount of women I wanted to be in that group. And I wrote it down. So like, write your plans down. Like, that's like a biblical like principle. Like, write it down, make it known to the Lord, ask him for wisdom, and he'll give you wisdom and riches. Like when he's speaking of King Solomon, when he's asking for that, he's like, you didn't just ask for riches, but because you asked for wisdom, I'm going to give you this, and I'm gonna give you wisdom, I'm gonna give you riches, I'm going to give you authority, I'm going to give you territory, I'm going to give you it all. And I remember hitting that scripture a couple years ago because, like, as a working woman in the home, like, but I need to hit this amount. I need to hit this
Mm-hmm.
amount so I can be home and like raise my kids. But it's like,
Yeah.
stopped asking God for that amount of money and was like, no, I just need the wisdom. And when I asked for that, he gave me wisdom that helped me multiply to get my business to hit the first 2K month, to hit the 5K months, to hit the 10K months, to hit my first like 15K month, and then be like, okay. And that's when I was like, I need to go back, refine, and get stronger structure to be able to have a
Carry
capacity.
this.
Yeah, because I was like shocked that I could even do that.
Yeah.
Like I was like, oh, I can't believe like we just did this, but at the same time there was other areas that were leaking, like my
Mm-hmm.
own rest, my own like present mind. And so it's like you have to be able to look at that from a more wholesome approach and say, what foundation am I growing on, right? And then communicating with your spouse, obviously your goals and things like that, which I love that, Joseph is so like involved in everything. It's amazing.
Yeah. Joseph literally doesn't care. Well, I say that like not that he like doesn't care what I'm doing, but he's like, okay, Raina, go.
Yeah.
Like here's a credit card. Do what you need to do. And it'll buff.
Supportive, yes, supportive spouses are everything. And I think that partially, our husbands, they they have the spirit, right? So they know, they see like our hearts behind it. And I think that's just like such an exciting part of the journey, is to know that you have someone who is like cheering you on. And so I would also say to her, just like communicate her desires with her spouse, communicate so then she can have like a more accurate viewpoint on it. Because like my husband doesn't even have social media. So
Yeah.
when
Same.
I'd be like telling him different things, he'd be like, like, I remember what I told him, like, I was like, I'm trying to write this caption. And he's just like, wait a minute. So like, you're spending this much mental energy to write he's like, you could
Caption.
be
Right.
writing a book.
Or
Like,
an email or
yeah, or
17 emails.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you could be writing so much. I mean, my husband, he's a writer, he's a poet, so like it's ingrained in him, and he's been practicing the art for a while. But when he said that to me, I was like, oh my gosh, you're right. I'm putting so much energy and like worth on this caption when I could be doing so much more. And so like having that, even if sometimes the feedback from your spouse may seem like direct, you have to remember like iron sharpens iron. And if you're not communicating these things with your spouse and you're in the spirit, you have to trust that God is also going to reveal wisdom to you from your spouse.
Mhm.
I remember the one time I was like going to move to a different coach. This was not too long ago. And I told my husband I had been with one woman for a while, and I was like, I feel like I need to make this investment. He's like, why? Like, you already have a coach. And he kind of compared it to like a
Mhm.
basketball like situation. I was like, yeah, but I'm hitting this point where like I'm feeling the growth beyond it. And it was hard to like explain it to him, but I was basically like, this new coach I was going to work with, she had a lot of wisdoms with scaling. And I was hitting this like end point of like starting my business with one coach, and I needed to move forward. And I love mentorship. I think
Yeah.
godly mentorship is everything. And he didn't say no, but he was just like, "We should think about why, like, you really wanna make that move." And so I remember making that next investment and being like, "Well, he didn't say no, but he really was like, you need to think about why you're doing it, why you wanna, change a coach in the middle of a quarter." And I, like, thought about it and I prayed about it. I was like, "No, I know exactly why I need to make this investment, even though I'm not sure how I'm gonna make this monthly payment. I'm gonna do it." And, my business was definitely blessed tenfold in that. So it's kind of like, know your spouse, communicate with your spouse, know the degree in which like he understands your business, and yeah, just always seek wise counsel. So I don't hide anything from my husband. Like I
Yeah.
share everything with him, down to like finances and things like that. So whether you are the head of the home dealing with the financial situation or not, I just think having communication is so key, because it's definitely a foothold that the enemy can get in your mind, your emotions, literally your wallet, because it's very easy to invest platforms, coaching, courses, all these different things. And I mean, if you really just find a few content creators or coaches or, women who have faith and they're able to pour out on their platforms all this wisdom. You can learn a lot just for free. I would say the biggest thing about having like a mentor and a coach is you just get a little bit more customization and personalization in the process. But if you can slow down and be like, I'm going to study what this person is teaching because I believe it to be good and true, then you can implement that in your online work or your life or whatever you're trying to learn. And yeah, that can really bless you. Cause I did a ton of stuff like that when I first started, just like absorbing like a sponge, all the things. Yeah. You don't want to do too much. You want to, obviously the word of God is the truest place you need to go. But when it comes to strategies, there's a lot of stuff online you can learn from YouTube, you know?
Yeah. Just being discerning and picking that up. So if we were to dive into the money conversation, because we need to, how much do you think like the spirit of mammon or just like this, I feel like this scarcity mindset enters this conversation, because like with anything, the enemy just comes to like, he's a father of lies, but I think we always think of that as like the antagonistic, very bold lies, when sometimes like his most crafty distractions in our life are just the tweaks of like, oh, well, like working outside of, like I can be a very present mother and I can do that through social media. All I have to do is like these posts and these things, Lord. But it's like those gentle whisperings of the enemy to say, oh, well, yeah, this is God. This is a good thing. You want a good thing, but then it becomes the thing. And I think that money in social media becomes that thing very quickly for a lot of women. So how do we even be wary and guard our hearts and spirits and knowing like, yes, Lord, like I am pursuing you. I'm pursuing this passion. I'm pursuing this community. But at the same time, I have to be on guard because I don't want this good thing to be the whole thing, especially when there's a price tag attached to it and I have to pay my bills.
Sheesh. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so good. So mammon, you're not able to serve God and mammon. So mammon referring to one's possessions like money, wealth, or property. Jesus uses the word mammon as a burdensome ruler seeking to lure humans into its own control. So the way that I look at that, and when I felt like I was tempted with mammon, was when I was hitting that scaling part of my business, wanting to hit specifically the 10K, the golden 10K a month mark. But that's the thing with God, is he gives us free will. And so we can chase these worldly desires and we can do it in our own will and our own strength. And we're going to quickly learn that that's not, it's just, you're going to experience things that are not good, like on that climb there. And this is why God warns us about it. And it's a totally different experience to walk through hitting a 10K month or a launch or growing your business with the Lord. And this is where, this is where fruitful business came from with my work, is John 15, abiding in him and abiding in the vine. And that's how we are fruitful, when we stay in alignment with him. And so I would say, like, you just have to be aware with a lot of the teachers in the online space talking about money. And this is where I was like, God, I don't want to talk about money. Like, come on. And he's like, it's almost like I feel like he's trusted me in this way. And I can't not honor him in that, even if it means sharing a little bit of vulnerability, even if it means like, a big thing for me was like, gee, what if someone doesn't want to work with me as like a health practitioner because they see me talking about money? Like, there's that weird overlap. And like, does he still want me to launch my healthcare clinic, which is like a burning passion of mine? Like, is it still something he wants? Because when you're online, you start building these things, people will like see you as that, right? Like, see you as a business coach, or see you as the coach who helps people, practitioners hit 10K months. And like, at least that's how I see it. And so for someone to want to work with me on fertility, I'm like, like, what's the overlap though? But what God really revealed to me is, especially in the health space, is we know that investing in fertility services, or we know that investing in all these healthcare things cost thousands and thousands of dollars. So I really believe God is just like wanting to reveal a new like relationship that we as humans can have with money, because his resources are endless. Like, so it's all about the relation. Like, what God wants to get to is the heart, like the heart of how you feel about money, how you spend your money, why you spend your money there, how you steward it, how you give back generously. Can you give $1 or $10 or $10,000 away and be okay with it, and not blink and be like, it's to
And
the
not
Lord.
blink. Yeah.
And, I think a lot of us who grew up in Christian homes, and it's kind of like, it depends on, how you grew up, but it's like you spend it all for Jesus. And I witnessed, I witnessed my mom doing a lot of that, and she never did much for herself. And I feel like that's also a point where there's a revelation being brought where God does want you to live in this place of abundance. And it doesn't mean like you're going to be, I'm not speaking to just riches, but abundance of time and abundance of health and abundance of present mind as a mama, like we've been talking about. And so, riches, there's worldly riches, but then there's godly riches. There are crowns that we are promised in heaven for sharing the good news of the gospel. So it's like, when I think of legacy, when I think of riches, like after overcoming that, like, I would say the spirit of mammon that had fallen upon me, I was like, I want the godly riches. I don't want the worldly riches. I want what God has for me. And so how God healed me is he's like, I'm going to provide that monthly mortgage. I'm going to provide that. And I'm going to provide more. And I'm going to provide more when you do it my way. Right. But when you try to do it by the world's way, you're always going to be left
Uh-huh.
feeling broken and lost and striving. And so the way that scarcity or the spirit of mammon manifests in your life, it can really present itself in a lot of different ways. Like, I could go on about it, but yeah, you just want to be mindful of what you're chasing and why you're chasing it. And God will really reveal to you your heart in the process, and he can heal you. And then from there, you can start again. And it's a beautiful process. And yeah, it's a part of you that does need healing. I think a lot of us who, yeah, if you were taught scarcity in any kind of way around money, it's definitely a generational thing that can kind of be severed through you during this time of your life. And then that way, the way you talk about money with your kids is like a huge difference. The way you talk about food, the way you talk about things, like there's always more. There's always more. Hey, not right now, but
Mm-hmm.
there's always more. Like I talk to my 4 and 5-year-old about money all the time. Like they know about it. Like they know the value in what it is, but they also know like God is our provider, right? And that we work hard and that we give generously. And so those are
Mm.
principles that we operate out of in our home.
Like you said, it ties so intimately into the conversation with wellness and chasing. Oh, well, if I just do this protocol, then I'll have this. If I just work with this practitioner, then
Yeah.
I'll be well, and then I'll come out on the other side and I'll have no problems ever, right? Like it's so easy, I think, in the wellness sphere to go from Western medicine is like
Yeah.
selling the narrative that like it makes you sick, when I think wellness culture does the same thing in a similar regard. There's just a different title to it, right? Like
Yeah.
you're still chasing these things that you think that is your ultimate hope. And like my husband and I talked about that even just with a friend lately about just our fertility journey right now. Is I was putting so much hope in these tests coming through, or this thing or this thing or this thing. I finally sat with the Lord and was like, oh, I was hoping in the result, not in you.
Mm.
And that's a hard place to be, especially when it comes to like physical health things, and in the almost but not yet, and trusting God in the, and if not God, if I don't get this outcome, then help me to believe that you're still good.
Yeah.
Because it's really hard to do that. And I've had that conversations with friends this week. I'm like, I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
But I'm telling God that. I'm lamenting, I'm sharing that openly with him. And Lord, like, I know you're good. I just don't feel it right now.
Right.
And I'm not there at the place where I could say, Lord, if you do not heal this thing and whatever it is,
Yeah.
and just like sitting with him in that.
Yeah. That's the relationship. That's what he desires, is for us to be able to bring that to him. And it's never one thing, right? It's never one thing that's going to save your financial situation. It's never one thing that's going to save your health situation. And this is why doing what you can, stewarding your body, your finances, your time well, and doing what you can. And then
Mm-hmm.
when you have the ability to invest in other areas, investments are huge and they're so important, and they stretch you and they grow you. Like hands down, there's so
Mm-hmm.
many different things I would hire a coach for that I can think of, but being very intentional about your resources is really important. Not stingy, you know what I mean? You have to be willing to, in a way, especially if you're, looking to grow. Sometimes it feels like a risk, but you bet on God. God, you bet on him.
Mm-hmm.
it's not by my own strength, but it's by him. And so, yeah, I mean, he's such a good father that, like I said, you fall, you trip, you stumble, he picks you up. But yeah, it definitely having people in your corner like you, it's just, like I said, it's so
Mm-hmm.
inspiring and it just keeps you going. Like it really does. If we
Yeah.
weren't doing this, I really don't know what what else we would be doing. Like I said, I'm super thankful. Like
Yeah.
I think this is really fun. There's days in my business that are more stressful, but like this is fun. And I know every year we look back and we're gonna be like, wow, we grew so much. So like to be hard on ourselves about these like little things, it's like we're gonna get through it. It's all good. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, I can't wait to see where God takes things in like another year. So
I
it's
know,
so
isn't that
cool.
insane?
Yeah.
Oh, well, Alicia, where can we get connected with you, your services?
Yeah, for sure. I'll give you my handle, even though you guys, if you've been following, I'm like an infamous like jump around Instagram. I feel like I'm like a rebel in the way, like how many times can I change something and not be like attached to the notion that I'm changing it? I don't know. It's kind of my personality, but you can find me on Instagram at I am Alisha Banks. And yeah, just message me there. We are in the process of relaunching From Dust, which is my global wellness company where we serve women in health and healing. I'm predominantly, working with practitioners now, but we have an IHP intern who joined us, and we're praying about that growth over there to be able to offer, functional testing and bioenergetic scans and all that. So if not with me, I have several women in wellness and practitioners that I can link you with, women of faith. And yeah, just hit me up on Instagram and we can have a conversation. And I'm always down to talk about Jesus. So,
Yeah, I love that, friend. Well, I would love just to close with this question as we do with all of our guests. I think it's just sweet, like the timing of this episode for the end of the year and like closing it out. But if you could offer any wisdom to your younger self or for a community that is listening, what would you share?
for my younger self. Well, I've been thinking about this one lately, and maybe it's just this like left field, but I feel like just loving your body, like where you are at. And it may seem kind of superficial, but it makes a big difference as a woman to just say, like, no matter where your body is at, just love it. Like, you don't need to
Mm,
operate with force, or restrict in times where you feel like maybe you're taking up too much space. And again, this could be physically, but like emotionally, all the things. Just love your body because God created it and it is good. And wherever you are at in the season of life, it is working for you. Um, and literally the blood of Jesus runs through our veins, which is so powerful. Like,
mm,
and so just love your body where you're at and show up who all of who you are. Don't try to hide anything. And it'll be so freedom giving for
mm.
you to do that. Just be who you are, who God created you to be, and share your gifts with the world.
Yeah, you're doing the world a disservice to not be exactly who God created you to
Yeah.
be.
Don't hide. Don't hide. Share your gifts. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you, friend. I love this conversation and I
Yeah.
know that it's blessed our community.
Oh, I'm so excited. Anytime. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And we'll catch you guys on the next episode.
Thank you for listening, friend. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you don't want to miss any wisdom or encouragement, be sure to subscribe to the show. And don't forget to rate and review. Your feedback means so much and helps our community grow. If you're looking for more wellness wisdom and free resources, head over to livingwiselywell.com or get connected with me on Instagram at wiselywell. And if you're looking for a break from the hurried health lifestyle, check out my Return to Rest resource for tangible ways to slow down and finally find rest.